Jonathan Kuminga reportedly prefers taking the qualifying offer over anything the Golden State Warriors have offered up until this point, while Cam Thomas also is set to take the qualifying offer and has an ask of over $30 million on his next contract. And Josh Giddey's just left in purgatory. On today's episode, we're talking about why the restricted free agents are so stuck right now in purgatory, as well as the Boston Celtics and them having Anfernee Simons on the trade block. We'll talk about all that and more right after this.
Welcome to the number one place for your daily basketball news and analysis, NBA Central.
What's going on, basketball fans? Welcome to another episode of NBA Central, your number one spot for everything basketball related. I'm the host, Derek Hayes, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at NBA Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go ahead and get into this content for today. So I want to start off with this one. According to ESPN, Jonathan Kuminga would rather take the $7.9 million qualifying offer than the current 2-year, $45 million offer that's right now on the table by the Golden State Warriors. Reportedly, Golden State presented the offer with a team option in the second season as well, so that that they can have control over what happens with Jonathan Kuminga. As such it stands right now, that Kuminga does not want to take a team-friendly deal. He prefers the possibility of a sign and trade, but he does not want to sign a team-friendly deal that makes it more easy for him to be traded to a destination that he doesn't necessarily control in the midseason. And so because of that, it's either going to be a sign and trade, or it seems like it's going to be the qualifying offer. Jonathan Kuminga does have all the way until October 1st to decide if he's going to sign that qualifying offer or not. And when you look at this period of restricted free agencies, Quentin Grimes, Cam Thomas, Jonathan Kuminga, Josh Giddey, like they all sit right now because the market basically dictated that a lot of teams didn't spend a whole lot of money. And the teams that did spend money rather focus on going after options where they did not have to worry about their money potentially being tied up, whereas another team had the rights to match that offer. And I think that, all these free agents sit in a unique situation when it comes down to it. But when you look at Kuminga, who reportedly wanted, $30 million on his next deal, that's per season, that's what he was looking for. Cam Thomas with everything between $30 million and $40 million. Then you have Josh Giddey as well, who's seeking a $30 million contract. The Bulls have stood firm on a $20 million per year offer as well. And when it comes down to it, like, these guys are stuck. And when you really look at this overall, this is what restricted free agency has become, at least in this transaction period. Next season may provide a little bit more flexibility because there are going to be more teams with money. There are going to be teams that strike out, and maybe they'll be more willing to put money on restricted free agency. But as it stands right now, this restricted free agency has completely and utterly become a trap for these restricted free agents because, the market just didn't dictate. And, all these guys had different things going on with them. Kuminga and Josh Giddey both have, for the large part of their careers, either been on teams where they weren't able to play their best role. Josh Giddey, had to basically play mostly small forward, whereas he's better as a point guard because of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Jalen Williams, two players that are better than him being at the guard position. And then the OKC Thunder wanted him to take a bench role. He gets traded to Chicago. The season starts off a little rocky, finishes the season very strong, but at that point, the leverage is gone. Kuminga's been on a team where he's never really fit the way that they wanted him to play, and a coach that never really seemed like he was high on Jonathan Kuminga either. And Cam Thomas sits in a place with the Brooklyn Nets, who really knows what the hell the Brooklyn Nets are doing. Most people did not think that they would use all their draft picks in the draft. They did, and now they sit in a place where it doesn't seem like Cam Thomas is really part of their long-term role. They have offered him a $14 million deal. That's well below what he wants, and so reportedly he's also interested in taking the qualifying offer and moving on. And Quentin Grimes has been a player that's been all over the place in his little bit of time in the NBA. When you look at relative to the amount of teams that he's been on, and while he had a very strong finish with Philly as well, it wasn't quite, the run that solidifies you, even though Philly would be crazy to let go of any talent considering where they are. And these players just find themselves in just a rough situation to be in. And this is what modern restricted free agency could start to look like. When you look at teams, first off, wanting to avoid the second tax apron, which means that in the moves that they're making already, they're being conscious over how the moves fit together and where it's going to put them at. So then on top of that, being in that area, like avoiding that, you want to go after things or players that your money doesn't have to be locked in with. And typically when you sign a player to a offer sheet that's a restricted free agent, you have to offer them a little bit overpay to try to get the other team not to match the deal. And that's just where things sit at. So it's going to be really interesting to watch how restricted free agency. I thought that restricted free agency could turn into a new kind of market, because you got to think of it this way. If a team is near the second tax apron and you have a restricted free agent, if I'm the team that wants to put an offer sheet out, I'm going to put an offer sheet for your player that would send you into the second tax apron, and we're really going to test how much do you want to keep this player. But that's not the situation that's presented itself in really any of these teams as it stands right now. It's more so just the fact that it's the players that these teams, in some cases, I do think like the Bulls want to keep Giddey. It's just at their number. So thus, a team's not going to put out a offer sheet for a guy that the Bulls are probably going to match it regardless, no matter what it is. Or you're going to have to pay so much more that then you got to ask yourself if you want to do that. With the Golden State Warriors, it's a situation as far as waiting it out. Like, they really don't want Kuminga, but they don't want to lose the asset. So therefore, maybe we wait for them to sign him and then we try to trade for him, or he's going to take the qualifying offer and we can get him next year. Same thing with Cam Thomas. Even though I do think that Cam Thomas next year, if he's an unrestricted free agent, is going to have a way different market if he's able to stay healthy and things like that. You have teams that are just willing to wait that out. And so it's just restricted free agency isn't what it used to be. It used to be typically most restricted free agents would end up staying on the team, whether it's a shorter deal, whether it's a longer deal. And now the combination of those things just puts you in a situation where that's not the case anymore. And we'll see how this continues to develop for these teams and these players. But it's a very interesting wrinkle here now with restricted free agency being what it is. And the question that you have is I used to think at the beginning of this that it was going to be whenever one of these restricted free agents either signed an offer sheet, got signed and traded, that deal was really going to dictate kind of what happened to the other players, in the restricted free agency. But now I don't even know if that's the case. You could get 2 out of these 4 guys to take the qualifying offer, and then you can move on. And while I don't think it's likely, there's a realistic world in which maybe all 4 of them or 3 out of the 4 take the qualifying offer, and then they're back on the market next year. And as we know, most players that take the qualifying offer very rarely go back to the team that they were in restricted free agency with. So it's going to be something to continue to watch and monitor. It's one of the more interesting things that have happened this offseason. But the market has adamantly talked on what this is for all these players. And now you just got to figure out what's going to be next for these guys. So you guys can let me know how you think on this. When you look at these restricted free agents, Josh Giddey, Jonathan Kuminga, Cam Thomas, Quentin Grimes, which one of these guys do you think signs first with their incumbent team, the team that they're currently on? Or do you see all of these guys potentially taking the qualifying offer, and then we're talking about them all 4 being unrestricted free agents next year? Let me know what you guys think on that down below. Moving on from that, though, I want to talk about this. Reportedly, the Celtics continue to keep Anfernee Simons on the trade block, and while the trade is not imminent, they are looking for that. This one comes from Jake Fisher, who says this. The expectation persists furthermore that Boston will continue to invite trade discussion involving Anfernee Simons from now through next season's trade deadline on February 5th at 3 p.m. And this makes sense. I talked about this a little bit over on Locked On NBA. The situation with Anfernee Simons is as it stands. There could be a world in which they keep Anfernee Simons long term, that he fits into whatever they're going. He could be their bench scorer, whatever it is. But I think the most likely scenario is you hold on to him, you hope that he has some trade value, and then you look to flip him for maybe your future big, maybe a piece that next year you feel comfortable paying, or you want the bird rights on to negotiate in free agency. And Anfernee Simons could be a really big trade chip for something like that. Because again, keep in mind, it's not like Anfernee Simons is a terrible player. This is a shooter that can help a lot of teams, whether it's starting, coming off the bench, whatever it is. And Anfernee Simons could get you something back. I'm not saying a whole lot that would completely change the direction of the Boston Celtics. The Celtics team is already interesting to watch because I'm somebody who think this is still going to be a pretty solid team. But considering he's a $27 million expiring contract, that's a chip that you can use to make another move for yourself. And depending on where the Celtics are, maybe it's a move to gear up for the playoffs. Maybe, like I said, it's more of a move to get the bird rights of a player you can have next offseason, negotiate with. There's a lot of different avenues and ways you can use that Anfernee Simons contract. And if I'm the Boston Celtics, this is not only one of the better trade chips, or maybe the best trade chip that you have, unless you want to move a Derek White or a Peyton Pritchard, who's on a really reasonable contract as well, Anfernee Simons could be that trade chip that you need to get something to where when Jason Tatum is back next season, you're sitting in a much better situation and place. And it's going to be interesting to watch this. Like I said, the Celtics are already one of the teams that I'm going to watch next season because I'm excited to see what Joe Mazzulla does in this next phase of the Boston Celtics. It's going to have to be some of the most coaching that he does. I'm also interested in the development of some of the young pieces that are on this team as well that they've drafted and brought into this roster. So I'm excited to see that aspect of things. Also with Hugo Gonzalez, Amari Williams, those type of players that they have in here. And so, we'll end up seeing what happens here with this squad and with this team. But I, for one, am watching this. And, we'll see if Anfernee Simons ends up being moved because I'm not saying that you get the world back for him, but I do think that he is somebody that for the Celtics and where they are right now, that it can help them add some things that they much need to their team and to their franchise, and we shall see. But overall, hey, this is, like I said, very interesting place that we're in right now. Cam Thomas not getting the interest on the $30 million deal, things with the restricted free agents, Anfernee Simons being on the trade block. Let me know what you guys think on all of that down below. Make sure you guys are following us at NBA Central Pod. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, NBA Central Show @gmail.com. And then lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We're the number one spot for everything basketball related. Catch you guys next time I feel like making a video. Probably tomorrow. Peace, y'all.
This has been a presentation of the Breaks Media.